What we have got here are two Toshiba Tecra 8000 series systems. This is an 8000, that's an 8100. Both of these are the basis of their own projects. This is Project Luddite. This is Project Loco. There are reasons for me calling each and which things that. Project Luddite is what we're going to focus on in this particular video, and I'll get this set up in a second. Project Loco will be featured in a different video. Maybe it's the one before this, maybe it's going to be one after this. I have no idea. I'm filming these things, shooting them out of order, but I want to get all these projects done soon enough. Oh, that's what's making that noise. Alright. I didn't log on to that, did I? I don't think I did. Yeah, now I'm breaking everything. Yeah, whatever. That's not the focus. So, both of these are similar yet different machines, but we're going to take a look at this. So I'm going to go hook this up. There's also a bag of memory back there, but that's for Project Loco and not for this. And there's a bunch of crap there, but that's not for either of these projects. So let's hook this up and get ready to take a look and talk about all this stuff. This video is going to feature a number of different things. I'm going to be talking about the hardware. I'm going to talk about why I chose this particular system to be the basis of this project. We're going to talk about the actual project and go on a little bit of a rant during that. And finally, I'm going to demonstrate the machine as it currently is. Strap yourselves in. It's going to be a wild ride. So let's talk about the actual hardware. Alright, what you've got sitting in front of you is a Toshiba Tecra 8000, as potentially previously mentioned. This is Project Luddite. It has got, first right off the bat, you can see that it is no new machine. In fact, it's rather bulky and looks rather old. You'd be right, this particular system was built, I believe this one was in '98. Or maybe it was in 1999, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the optical drive. I haven't looked in a very long time. But this is from one of those turn-of-the-century laptops. It's not real powerful, but it is certainly no slouch. It's got a mobile Pentium 2 processor, as you can probably see there. The processor happens to be clocked. Well, you could probably see there until the autofocus lost the plot. Clocked at 366 megahertz. Yes, that's right, a blistering 366 megahertz. You could probably run Crysis in full detail on this. It has 256 megabytes of PC-133 memory, split over two 128 megabyte modules. It's got a 10 gigabyte IBM TravelStar DJSA210 hard drive, IDE of course. I think it's 66 megabit a second. 66 megabits per second. It has got an attached floppy drive because, and yes, I've got a little bit of a thing about this, real computers have floppy drives and PS2 ports, something that this thing also has. The network hardware happens to be a Xircom Ethernet adapter 2PS, because that happens to be what works with Windows that runs on this system. And we'll talk about that in a second. Other hardware-wise, it has a CD-ROM drive. The sound hardware is a Yamaha OPL3-SA3, a rather common chipset, doesn't sound half bad. And it bases itself, it's actually got an OPL3, obviously, synthesizer, FM synthesis. I think it sounds beautiful. It sounds a lot better than the Microsoft GS software crap that comes bundled with computers these days. And rounding out the hardware roster are apparently a video that's out of focus. Seriously, something is going to need to be done about this. We have, I think, that is either a 12, a 13, or a 14, maybe even a 15-inch. LCD panel, active matrix, 1024 by 768, really nice panel. It was real great then, and it's actually still pretty stunning, even now. And the hinges are in perfect shape, nothing is broken. And that pretty much rounds out the hardware portion of things. The battery, believe it or not, is good for about 50 minutes of runtime. I tested it. That's pretty darn good for a system from the turn of the century. Why did I choose this hardware for this particular project? Well, let's start off with the simple fact of the matter is the fact that it was cheap. I found this thing about to be hauled off for recycling. I couldn't let that happen because, of course, it worked. Well, kind of worked. It runs nicely, and it's basically got all the hardware that I need. I also wanted an older system so that I could try out Linux on an older particular piece of computing equipment. So there are my reasons. They may not be all that justifiable, they may not be reasonable, but they certainly work for me. I can justify them to myself, and that's all that matters. You are probably sitting there right now wondering what in the heck is Project Luddite. Project Luddite is my attempt to run an older Linux distribution, or a Linux distribution that is meant for older hardware, on said older hardware. And it actually stems from my initial attempts to try and run anti-X Linux, which you did see in another video. Anti-X 19.1, which is what I was running on this, has the name, or code name, I don't know if it's a code name or if it's the actual name, of Luddite, which I thought was absolutely amusing, and I decided to pass that on to this computer. It's not running anti-X anymore, and I'm going to discuss why, and it is with this that I talk about one of the very first reason why I do not run Linux on my everyday computing equipment. Alright. Let's see, I don't remember where I was when I was talking about this particular project that I had to leave for a couple of different reasons. I did notice that it's charged the battery now, so that's pretty cool. And yes, it is very early in the morning at this point, but anyways. Yes, I think I was getting ready to talk about my experiences with Linux. I couldn't get anti-X to load a sound driver for the life of me, whatever. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to try and burn a Linux Mint CD. And I found a version of Mint that will run on this, Mint 8. And yes, Mint 8 is very much out of date at this point, but I think this is the Mint 8 disk. Yes, it would be. This is my Linux Mint 8 disk. Well, this isn't the one that I burned to begin with, but I'll get into that in a second. That disk worked, kind of. It wouldn't boot at first, so I had to reboot the system several times before it would actually do something. Probably should have realized then and there that there was something wrong with that disk, but I didn't, because after all, it booted and gave me an X server when it was all said and done. Trying to do anything with it was a pain in the butt. It took at least 10 minutes to load the X server and the desktop and allow me to even get to the installer. But then we encountered another problem. You see, I had changed the hard drive in this system over to a Toshiba drive. It was a 6.4 gig Toshiba. Anti-X installed on it just fine. After all, I didn't want to erase the Windows NT4 partition, and I didn't exactly want to have a dual boot situation. So it tried. You could partition the disk and do all of that, and it would kind of work, unlike the focus on this camera. it would kind of work. And then when you go to install, it would complain that the disk was busy. And, okay, fine. I'm going to shift this to manual focus, if that's what it's going to do. Looks like I can't even switch it to manual focus mode at all, unless I shift it from the intelligent mode. And I have my intelligent, or my manual mode set up just right for thunderstorm recording, so I don't feel like messing with it. But anyway, you'll have to deal with the out-of-focus video that this camcorder creates. But in any event, it would keep saying the disk was busy and that it was unable to create these partitions. So that's all well and good. Or not. I took the IBM TravelStar, the 10 gig drive that NT4 happens to be installed on, created a recovery disk for NT4, which I should have done a while ago, but I didn't. But, so I did that. And went to install Linux Mint again. And this time, it wouldn't even boot. Now, let's take a look at this particular disk. Even though this is not the one that I had used, it's fairly similar. These are on-branded discs. I believe that's a Walmart house brand. And they suck, to put it quite bluntly. I have developed an intense dislike for these discs because either you find one that works, but then dies 10 seconds later, or you find one that won't burn at all, or you find discs like this that seem to work, and may even still work. I'll have to see about that. But I'll tell you what, folks, that was enough of that. If it doesn't want to work through normal means, then I'm going to show it what burning a disc really means. I microwaved that thing. I'll tell you what, I've never done that. Well, I have done it before, but I've never really done it here, out of, you know, just sheer anger. I did it for fun a couple of years ago, but I have smashed CDs with hammers before. I have run CDs through paper shredders before, but I've only ever done the microwave thing once. Don't try that at home. I did take a video of it. Don't try it at home, kids. Don't try it at work. Don't try it at a friend's house. It stinks. It has the potential to create a big mess. And it's fairly dangerous and stupid. So that wasn't exactly the greatest video of somebody microwaving a CD, but that's alright. It was at this point that I set out to trying to find a disc by a company other than On, or as I like to call them, Off. I couldn't find one. We have got so many discs that are unlabeled in this place. From Sony, from Verbatim, from Fuji, from all these companies. All of them have got something on it. So I didn't find a blank disc that is from one of these. I'm going to be buying my own CD recordables at some point that is not from this particular crapola brand. I want to get discs that'll burn at low burn speeds because, you know, this is a touchy subject, but I like burning my discs at very low speeds. Like, we're talking 2x, 4x, 8x, 16x, some of the extreme cases. But I don't like using anything higher than 4x. The reason being that the low burn speeds seem to work better, at least for me. I've never had good luck burning at maximum speed. It always produces some stupid error and the disc doesn't work properly. 4x, on the other hand, I've never had a problem with. These discs support 16x write speeds. That's it. They don't support 48, they don't support 52, they don't, even though it says 52x on the disc. It doesn't support writing to that. It doesn't support 24, 30, whatever. Just 16. Nothing under 16, nothing over. As far as I'm concerned, if your optical media does not support burning at a low burn speed, you need better optical media, or a better optical drive. I couldn't find anything other than these stupid discs, so I had to take this one and burn this. Oh, it worked. It had some really interesting problems, but it did work. And I did manage to get Linux Mint 8 installed. That's when I started to see the problems. It's not that much faster on the hard drive than it is off of the CD. Now, it is noticeably faster. Slightly. But I don't know what the deal is, but it still doesn't seem to boot quite as fast as I think it should. It doesn't boot as fast as Anti-X ever did. That being said, it's Linux Mint. It's not intended to be run on low-end hardware, even though this is Linux Mint 8, a rather archaic version at this point in time. The X server, however, the X Windows server, loaded a lot faster than it did off of the CD, and that was the one thing that I was excited about. The other thing that I was excited about is the fact that it appeared as though we had sound. But I guess that hope definitely springs eternal, despite years of experience to the contrary before I completely bungle my sentences. Instead of describing exactly what happened, I'm going to turn the system on and let it describe what happened. And I will tell you what, folks. Bad CMOS checksum, well... Alright then. I'll tell you what, folks. This is exactly the reason why Linux Mint will not, or any Linux for that matter, at the current rate of progress, will not be in the running for an everyday operating system for me for a very long time, if ever. Let's wait for it to start. Displays the wonderful boot screen. I really do like that. I miss the simplicity of some of this stuff in the newer versions of Linux. Amount of a file system failed. Well, it looks like it broke itself. Eh. Let's see if it actually decides that it wants to boot. I've never gotten that error before. So maybe sometime between then and now it managed to break itself. Fine. I'm gonna guess I'm gonna have to do maintenance. Alright, we are now running file system check. Reboot Linux, sure. Whoops. I've never actually really Okay, let's see if it decides it wants to work now. Boot, you piece of crap. Ah, there we go. At least we've got this now. It'll probably still manage to fail. Still not sure quite why it did that. Well, it loaded as something, because I heard the speakers pop. So maybe, just maybe, it's decided to get its act together and loaded Sound Driver. Because it knows that I'm about to get angry. Or it knows that I'm trying to shoot a video showing all of its problems, so it's going to fix itself. Come on, load the gosh darn X server. Don't take all day. You can see what I mean about not being the fastest thing in the world. It's not bad. It really is not bad, given what it has to work with. But it is certainly not great. Do we have audio? Doesn't look like it. Yeah, I don't think we've got sound. Unless the auto login is thwarting any possible, any possible startup sounds. Oh, it is almost 2:40 in the morning. Come on. I want to show them how badly you work, you piece of crap, so why don't you just load faster? Ah, you can see there, we've got a mixer. Watch, as soon as I go to open something that'll play sound, it'll work fine. But that doesn't matter, because there is something else that doesn't work. Alright, there we go. Dummy output. Watch this. I'm gonna go into sound preferences. Stupid. Yeah, that describes my feelings towards this stupid thing. Okay, so sound looks like, all that looks like it's fine. Alert volume is turned down all the way for some reason. Output volume 100%. Hardware. Oh, look at this. There's nothing there. This particular system bases around an OPL3-SA3 chip from Yamaha. It's a fairly common chip. It was used on many different systems around this time period. So why is something as simple as sound on a very common chipset not working under Linux? Oh, but it gets worse. It gets worse. I'll tell you what we're going to try and do. We are going to try and install the sound driver using ModPro, which is what the ALSA tools tells you to do. So we're going to have to reboot and go into the BIOS and check some various settings here. No. Let's see. Page down. Sound. As you can see, this is very early days of plug and play yet. Either that or the system doesn't support it very well at all. So you can see we've got IRQs and addresses and things like that. You had to know all this stuff back then. And in fact, sometimes you still do, at least if you play around with old computers like this. You do need to know all of these interrupts and all this interrupts, addresses and things, and make sure that nothing is stopping on something else. So we're going to take note of all of these particular addresses and channels and IRQs, and because we'll need them in order to set this up, so let's write them down. Okay, we now have those values written down, so we're going to escape, exit out of the setup, let it reboot itself, and boot back into Linux, and probably see that it's going to have corrupted the file system again, because this is, of course, an IBM TravelStar hard drive and a rather large piece of crap. But let's see. Let's watch the whole unfettered boot process. File system checks are in progress. Okay. Let it do these file system checks, because why not, right? As water from the condensation from this glass of water drips all over me. Come on. There we go. Okay. Let's open up a terminal. I'm going to have to go on in here as root. At least I'm going to make an attempt to. Yes, I am definitely back. Okay, so let's do a mod probe here. By the way, following the instructions on the ALSA how-to. So, that's the right module, correct? SND-card-OPL3-SA. Yes. Okay, so sound port. Sound port. Control port. Huh. Interesting. So that's different. Well, we'll fill that in with blank values for now. And figure out which one's not used through process of elimination. WSS port. So WSS is 530. It should be 530. Okay. MIDI port. They say to disable it, but I'm not because I've actually got the MIDI here. For the MP401, yes. 330. MPU 401, sorry. FM port. Should be 388. And it is. At least they say it is. IRQ. IRQ, not RQ, equals, that would be 5. DMA1. I'm going to go with 1. Could go with 1 for that and see what happens. If not, I can change the 2 around. DMA1's size. What are possible sizes? 4 to 64 kilobytes. Let's try omitting it and see what happens. Because it didn't give me a size, so... It probably did, I just didn't look for it. DMA2. DMA2 should be 0. Alright, so which ones haven't we used? We haven't used 538 or 220. What are possible values? Control port doesn't give me any possible values. Okay. We'll enter in 220. And I will enter that command and we'll take a look at what happens in just a second. And I am back in almost no time at all, thanks to the magic of video editing. Enter. Oh, look at this. Module not found. Well, gee. Let's take a look here. I guess I'm going to have to try installing the additional modules. Which I thought I did do. No, backports, modules. There we go. I'd have to see what version I happen to be running, because it's one of these. Mark for install. Nope, wants a different image, so we'll cancel that, and we'll just mark the other one. Let's try this one. Probably going to have to install both of them anyway. Yes, please mark that package and apply those changes. Really? Alright, and it is with that we come into the second problem that I'm about to discuss. And it's another thing that simply should not happen. So basically, you know what? If it doesn't want me to have sound, then I guess we won't have sound. Are you going to close or what? Force quit. Go away. If it doesn't want me to have sound, fine. There's still a process running. Well, there shouldn't be. If it doesn't want me to have sound, that's fine. I don't have to have sound. I'm going to have to enter my password here because I know that I'm going to have to enter my password. Or not. Really? I thought I had to enter my password, but I guess not. It's now downloading package files, but as you can see, it's failing to do a lot of them. Now, why is it failing to do a lot of them? Very good question. it is because I can only assume that the servers themselves have been moved to a different IP address, and they didn't tell anybody. And there's no way of actually managing to update them. That, quite frankly, is ridiculous. I don't know why the community still puts up with this BS, but apparently they do. And it's really annoying. Whenever I go to use Linux, whenever I go to do something that should be simple, like this, clearly, something that should be simple is not so simple. So where do we go from here? Well, there are a couple of places I can go. I could take could grab a copy of Crunchbang, which I believe will also work on older hardware. Or I'm going to go back to Anti-X, and I'm going to see if I can get this stupid mod probe crap to work under Anti-X. Because it should work there, because that actually does still receive updates. It's a supported distribution, unlike this. For now, let's go into NT4. Enough messing with this BS. Let's just go to something that works. Reboot, whenever it decides to let me. Okay. Move down in the list to NT2000 XP loader. Alright, here's a familiar face, NT 4.0. You'll see that it's loaded version 4.01. That's because I installed Service Pack 6A. Don't try looking for Service Pack 6 on Microsoft's website, because you won't find it. I do have a copy of it hosted myself. UXW Bill, I think, also pointed me in the direction of something that he had hosted on his site. But I won't be linking that, I'll just link you to the one on my site. And if UXW Bill happens to see this and wants me to link to his as well as a sort of backup, then I will certainly do that. You can see that even this doesn't boot exactly the fastest. But it does work. And as you'll see in a second, we've even got sound under NT4. Ah yes, the dreaded two-handed Control-Alt-Delete that Toshibas make you do. Isn't it beautiful how things like that just work under Windows? Well, I guess you couldn't say it just worked. I did have to install a driver in order to do that. You can also say that the network card, which I do have installed, it's an Ethernet adapter 2PS 10 megabit card with this little dongle adapter, also needed some work. It was also sharing the same IRQ as the sound hardware, so when that was installed, the sound wouldn't work. So I just had to change the IRQ of the card, and everything now works hunky-dory. I still have Internet Explorer 2.0. I've also got a copy of Netscape. Ooh, Netscape. Oh no, get it away. Winamp and Firefox. I don't do much with this. I have been using it to listen to the audio-only feeds on live streams, because of course Flash Player will not run satisfactorily under NT4. Doesn't matter what version it is, and in fact Firefox 2.0 doesn't work very well in this day and age anyway. But it does still work, and you can still view websites. Internet Explorer, on the other hand, at least IE2, not so much. Your browser is out of date. Oh no. Can't have that now, can we? Let's see. Let's go to my website. That's as good as any. Especially considering I did some recent changes to it. And as you can see, it's actually using a different font now, because I had some issues in Linux with the fonts being all messed up, so I had to set some fonts. It's now using Helvetica, which should work under Mac OS as well. It works under Windows, works under Mac OS, and it should work under Linux as well. It's a smaller sized font, so all this stuff can fit properly. And the buttons don't load under this version of Windows because I've got it under compatibility mode here. So let's see, let's load something. Let's load GUI Central. It's a good thing to load. And let's see. Review of the day. Rhapsody, Developer Release 1. So it looks like it actually does seem to work perfectly fine, even for today's internet. Now, good luck trying to view YouTube on this, because that won't work at all. And any sort of live stream will not work either, simply because Flush Player won't work quite well on this. I've tried installing FP10 and FP9, neither of them seems to want to work at all. Flash Player 7, while it tried, it also did not want to work very well. I don't know if there's something wrong with the fact that the plugin just simply won't load properly, or what the deal is, but I guess it's pretty much, let's try loading the site in Internet Explorer and see what happens. This is not going to work at all. In fact, if anything, I don't think it will load at all. It'll just give me this. Yes. Now let's try something else. Hope he won't mind me showing his website here, but we'll load this. So as you can see, pages do still load. It doesn't support a lot of crap, but pages do load under Internet Explorer 2.0, as long as they're not JavaScript infested or infested with other crap. And that, folks, I think is pretty much it for anything that I would have to show you under Windows NT, because there's not much that I've got installed on here. Thank you for watching this video. There will probably be more coming. I don't know how long this is, but hopefully it's not one of my hour-long video epics, because it certainly didn't need to be. Thank you for watching. If you've got any comments, feel free to leave them down below. And this is CP666 signing off when the computer signs off. I hope to see you next time. Till then. Boy, does it ever take a long time to write unsaved changes to the disk.